Thank you for joining us today. I hope everybody's doing well. My name is Donna Miller, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Purse Power. Purse Power is working to help women use their massive purchasing power to drive positive change. We believe that if women who make 80% of all purchasing decisions would choose to buy from the companies that actively promote women, and we would do that in mass, and we could create a funding stream for battered women's shelters in the process, that we could shatter glass ceilings and change lives. So that's what we're hoping to do. As we normally do, we will be taping the program today, and the videos are always available to you on our YouTube channel. You can just go to pursepower.com/coronavirus or click on the Let's Share the Journey tab, and you can see our prior 70 episodes or so. Okay, I think I'm hearing some sound in the background. All right, so let me introduce Diana. Diana is the programs lead for the Tom Love Innovation Hub and is based out of the OU Tulsa campus. The Love Innovation Hub was founded in 2016, and it originated as a cutting-edge facility to foster the creation, development, and implementation of innovative ideas. Okay, let me let people in here. Hang on. Let's see here. Today, the Innovation Hub and its partner programs have established the University of Oklahoma as a leader in the Oklahoma entrepreneurial ecosystem. Diana's undergraduate degree is from the University of North Texas in Integrated Studies with a focus on STEM programming and nonprofit management. And she has a passion for promoting underrepresented communities in tech and tech education as a means for increasing individuals' economic power. And of course, at Purse Power, we're all about women and their economic power. She also serves in an advisory capacity for the Oklahoma Women in Technology, Techlahoma Foundation, Girl Scouts of Eastern Oklahoma, and Tulsa Regional STEM Alliance. She is also one of the honorees this year for the Journal Record Women of the Year 50 Making a Difference. And Diana is going to be speaking to us about overcoming adversity and reaching your goals. So thank you again so much for being here, Diana. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Donna. I'm really excited to be here.
It's going to be great. Okay, let's just start. We want to learn more about you. Please give us kind of an overview of your background, if you would.
Yeah, so I always hate answering this question because I feel like I need to give a life story. But I spent most of my life growing up between Austin, Dallas, and Tulsa. Loved Tulsa when I was a kid, decided to come back here. Grew up with a single mother. My dad passed away in a car accident when I was 4. And my mother, unfortunately, is severely mentally disabled. So it was some family friends that kind of helped take care of us when we were growing up. But I realized now that being the oldest child is a lot of where I got my kind of grit and being able to stand up and take leadership and get stuff done, because if I didn't do it, nobody else was going to. So, and from there, I did it to the University of North Texas. Originally studied journalism and technical writing, but taking care of my mother, my husband getting laid off in the dot-com crash, and health issues made me have to quit halfway through my senior year. At that point, I also had 10 years in banking where I worked at electronic data systems in Wells Fargo. When the health issues got really bad in 2006, I left the workforce. But I'm the type of person that I can't just sit still. So I started a series of companies. My husband and I started a trucking company, hauling pipeline and flow back for the oil fields. When he got a tech job again, then I started a fiber arts business, taught myself to knit, crochet, and sew. I realized that those are nothing more than algebra and geometry, which is something that I loved doing in school. But when I realized that I wasn't going to be able to support myself if anything happened to my husband, I quit that. NPR had a story on that there's hundreds of thousands of coding positions out there, which is computer programming, and resources for how to teach yourself to do it. I sat down the very next day and taught myself front and back end web development, project management, and started picking up clients through some volunteer stuff. And this whole kind of eclectic background that I've got ended up being the perfect fit for the position at the Innovation Hub doing outreach. So I've been here now for 3 years.
Very good. Thank you so much. By the way, guys, I've got the mower going, unfortunately, in the background, so I keep muting myself in between the questions. My apologies if it bothers you. Okay, I wanted you to talk about resilience and the challenges you've overcome. You've had quite a few, and I want you to talk about how you overcame them and any lessons for the rest of us about how to do that.
Yeah, so there's been a lot. Between my husband and I, this is the first recession that I feel that isn't really affecting us, that we're finally in a strong enough position that we'll be able to get through this without any issues. Knock on wood. I don't want to jinx myself. But yeah, definitely we met in 98 during the dot-com crash. He got laid off from electronic data systems. I moved over to Wells Fargo, and thankfully sales and banking is something that is always going to be in demand. So I was able to pull us through all of that. But then in 2006, my health just got to be way too bad. We didn't know what it was at the time. And he had started truck driving. He said if it was good enough for his grandfather, it was good enough for him. He's very socially awkward, bless his heart. So he was kind of self-conscious going out and interviewing, and there was such a huge influx of tech workers after the dot-com crash. He decided to just do a career change. Then the 2008 recession came along. And during that time, we had the trucking company, which was doing okay, but it wasn't doing great. We made at least enough to keep the basic bills paid. And I started figuring out that's really when I started doing the knitting, crochet, and sewing and teaching myself how to do those things. Started selling them at farmers markets and little boutiques that I could find around. Anything I could to bring in some extra money to help keep those bills paid and give us some extra food and gas money to keep going. But I've always been the type of person that, even though how much pain I've been in with my health issues, I have to keep busy. If not, I go to a very dark place. And work is kind of how I cope with all of that. Mm. And I'm not really sure where to go with that. It's how I cope, and trying to find purpose in helping others, and taking the lessons that I've learned or offering advice, helping guide and coach other women who have been through a lot of the same things that I've had. I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome a couple of years ago. It's a connective tissue disorder that means that my connective tissue is too loose and fragile to do the work that it needs to do. So my joints are constantly shifting in and out of place, and it's extremely painful. But I've been able, with physical therapy and diet and exercise and a little bit of medication, not a lot, to get it to where I'm able to actually work a 40-hour job again, when for those 10 years I couldn't. I really needed that flexibility to be able to work when I felt good and not work when I was having a really bad flare up. So working for myself did okay, especially because I could still lay in bed and get work done. But it's hard. You can't. Until recently, it's been hard to do that kind of remote work.
Yeah. I'm sure that's been a blessing for a lot of people that have overcome things health-wise to continue working. And I'm really excited about that shift in the economy and the workforce, because I feel it's going to open a lot of doors for people who have disabilities that have been shut out from how things have been traditionally done. Yeah. And I've heard some numbers about the number of us that are going to have disabilities as we age, and it's a very high percentage. So absolutely, almost every single one of us. Yes. Yeah, exactly. All right. So what recommendations do you have for women that are facing these kinds of challenges? So for you, focusing on work helped you, having some flexibility in your life helped you. Any other recommendations when women are facing challenges? The thing that helped me the most was finding some Facebook groups of women who had similar issues that I did, or that I do. It all started when I had been diagnosed with severe endometriosis back in I think it was 2011. And there was I believe it was Nancy's Corner. And she's a nurse who
would answer any questions that you had. And I learned from her some really good surgeons to help do surgery that I needed. It was through her that I found out about the specific type of physical therapy that I needed to try to help with that. And it was then through that we discovered that I was hypermobile and had the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. We had no idea because my muscles were so tight and constricted. That's what it was. But I'm a huge proponent of going online and finding groups and talking about what you're struggling with and how everybody copes, because it's not going to be the same for every single person. Each person is unique and each person's going to have different things that help them, but not giving up and constantly trying new things. And don't be hard on yourself. Realize all of us struggle. All of us have bad days, and finding a career. Don't just, I know it's hard to say this, don't take a job just because it's a job. Do your best to, even if you take one just because you need to keep bills paid, continually keep looking until you find someone that's the right fit to work for, who's going to be understanding and flexible. And they do exist out there. I've been very lucky to come across some of them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Okay, so you know, you and I talked about this, and I bring this up as a coach all the time, that some of the biggest challenges we face as women and just as people is the stories we tell ourselves about the situation. I mean, I think that sometimes when we tell ourselves a story about it being our fault or we're awful or whatever it is, rather than helpful, useful, constructive stories, that can actually take us into a tailspin. Do you have any insight about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So growing up, I ended up being the scapegoat in the family. My middle brother, I'm the oldest. I've got two younger brothers. The middle brother was always kind of the golden child, but he shut himself away from all of the family trauma, literally locked himself in his room. And the second that he turned 18, he moved out. And my whole life, my mother blamed me for all the things that happened. And when I tried to talk to my siblings about it, they were like, the youngest one understood where I was coming from, but the one that I relied on the most, because he was seen as the smart and responsible one, was always telling me that I was overreacting. And so I internalized a lot of that. I really thought that everything was my fault, and that if I would just be better, if I would just be perfect, that things would get better. And they never did.
Yeah.
And it literally wasn't until a few years ago, when she was living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, her rent doubled on her place. My brother got remarried, and his new wife had said, "Hey, your sister's a saint for having taken care of your mom for all of these years. She's not crazy. She's not making this stuff up. She's absolutely correct. And it's your turn to step up and help take care of her." So she moved up to Albany, New York, where they're at. I was able to find a therapist and started seeing, once I was able to detach myself out of that situation, I was able to see how toxic it was and how it's okay to say no. And it's okay to step away and say, I don't have to be the caretaker. I don't have to be the fixer. And it's not my fault because I didn't fix it properly. You can't be responsible for other humans' behaviors and what they decide to do. You can offer support and solutions, but it's up to them to take it. And if they don't take it, that's not a mark on your character or on your ability or anything like that. And that has been completely eye-opening to me. And I really feel that I wish I had known this way earlier in my career, but I'm glad that I finally did get it, because I feel like a lot of women don't. And that's something I just want to shout from the rooftops. Say, hey, you don't have to keep doing this. I'm in such a much better place now, and I'm able to do all of this work. And it's so crazy. It kind of cracks me up. Everybody's like, how do you have the capacity to do all of this stuff that you do? But when you're used to having to fight with 110% all the time just to survive, that once all of those struggles are taken away, you're used to running at that 110% all the time, that all the other stuff is a breeze.
Well, I'm feeling emotional about what you're saying. I appreciate you being so candid and so open about it. I mean, a lot of what I've discovered is that everybody is carrying things. We look at other people's lives and think they're perfect, and everybody's got something. They just really do. So,
Absolutely. And I'm a huge proponent of being open, and if people don't like what I say, or if they're going to judge me, or they're going to think badly of anything, then they're not someone I want on my team. They can go be on their own. And being so open and forthcoming with things, I attract good people to me, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, thank you again for sharing it. I appreciate it. I really do. Okay, so let's see here. You have got a really unique skill set. You can do a lot of things. We were talking about that the other day. So you can do coding, grant writing, sales, marketing, journalism, all kinds of things. A lot of those skills are self-taught. I want you to talk about how and why you built that set of capabilities, and then how do you capitalize on them?
The capitalizing is the part that I struggle with, because I want to, you and I were talking yesterday about being a helper, and I want to help everybody. But a lot of it I've learned through volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm a huge fan of teaching yourself. I struggled with my degree. Like I said, I got halfway through my senior year and I had to drop out. Then after I had taught myself web development, I was going out applying for jobs, and I kept being told either I wasn't the right culture fit, which, reading the context of the room, I was female, and these were male dominated organizations, or I didn't have my college degree. And I was like, I can fix one of those. I had tried numerous times to go back and finish it, but University of North Texas kept telling me, oh, you were gone for too long. We reset your degree plan. You're going to have to redo your last 2 years all over again. And I'm like, this is crap. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so it just kept getting put off and put off and put off. And then in 2019, as I kept hearing all of that, I was like, okay, I'm going to do something about this. Either I finish at UNT, or I transfer the credits up to OU or someplace else local, or Northeastern NSU. And when I contacted UNT, they said, we've realized the error of having run things the way that we did, and we've come up with an integrated studies program. And all of your previous credits fit into that. Now you just have basically your last semester left that you need to finish. And the way that it worked, I had 3 categories I could choose. My journalism and technical writing fit into the writing portion of it. The other 2, I just needed to pick some classes. So since I had self-taught web development and was passionate about education, I had started volunteering and teaching introduction to coding classes on the weekends for women and young ladies, middle school and high school girls. I was able to do learning technologies, which was STEM education essentially, and do the programs that I was running counted as internships. And so I was able to satisfy STEM education. And then the nonprofit management was just a couple of classes learning about nonprofits, the different structures, and then project management and how to manage those projects. So all of that went extremely well. And it was through the volunteering with Oklahoma Women in Technology and Techlahoma Foundation. Any projects that came up, I wanted the experience to build up my portfolio. Since I lacked a lot of the classroom training and things like that. I did work for free for my friends, especially my fiber arts friends who had their sewing and knitting and crochet businesses, things like that. I set up e-commerce websites for them and managed those websites for them. Set up the database that Oklahoma Women in Technology uses now through Techlahoma Foundation and Code for America and Code for Tulsa. I helped relaunch CourtBot, which that one I didn't do so much of the coding on it. It was way more complex than what my skill set allowed, but I was able to be the project champion on it. That's where I learned a lot of my marketing was
Mhm.
through those, and then through the work I was doing for the friends that I was running their businesses. And then picking up clients left and right. There's a lot of organizations out there that need part-time tech help, whether it's with websites or even more hardware technical stuff, any of that stuff that came up. And then I had some small enterprise and medium enterprise corporations who had reached out and they wanted to do some web platform redesigns. So I took the project management that I had done through my last semester in college and applied that to what I had learned through the web development in the class, and was able to create some project plans for them for how to redo their web platforms. So it's been volunteering.
Well, it's interesting because I did the same thing. So when I had my triplets, I
Yeah.
went to a women in technology meeting and I said, what do you need? And they said a mentoring program. So I built a mentoring program for them that ended up being rolled out nationally. And that was the thing that got me my next job. So, I mean, I
Yes.
agree with you. That's a way to build the skills, make the connections, et cetera, to get where you're trying to go is through volunteering.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I got the job at OU. It's when this position opened up, it was somebody at OUIT who had been volunteering with me. And when this job opened up, she sent it to me. She said, Diana, this fits your skill sets perfectly. Go apply for this. I know you'll get it.
Very good. Very good. All right. So we've got a mix of business leaders and entrepreneurs on the phone today. So what are some of the most critical skills you think we need to have right now, given where we're going, given what's going on with technology, any kind of future you see? What are the most important skill sets you think we need to have?
It's going to be a combination of soft skills and tech skills.
Yeah.
And soft skills, I do feel can be learned. It can be a little bit harder, but I do feel that can be learned. The tech skills to me are easy. There's so many. Coursera is a huge. LinkedIn Learning. I taught myself the PHP language through LinkedIn Learning so that I could go manage WordPress websites for people. But yeah, those are the two big things.
And
You
I've
need
got
to understand. I feel like let me take that back a little bit. You need to understand basic coding and the structure of it. And it's really not any different than learning a foreign language. It has its own syntax and structure and rules for how it works. And if you're good at doing other languages, then you can easily learn coding. But at least understanding how it works is going to be crucial.
Well, that's what somebody was telling me the other day. Every job is a tech job going forward. Every single job we do has a tech component to it.
Absolutely.
So it's a useful thing to learn. All right. Let's see here. I want you to talk a little bit about the Ihub and what is that and what does it offer?
Yes, I love the Ihub. I first got to go see it. I believe it was the Oklahoma Women in Technology Spring Retreat in 2017. Right after it had opened, we invited a bunch of middle school and high school girls out there for a tour, and I fell in love with it. I was like, it felt like Santa's workshop, and it instantly became my happy place. There was one year I made some animatronic cat ears that would move and do all kinds of fun things. And that was my Halloween costume. So the Ihub it's a place for innovation and entrepreneurism. It is open, well, before COVID, it was open to anybody and everybody in the state of Oklahoma, and we are going to be reopening again this fall to anybody and everybody in the state of Oklahoma. But we've got, at its core, we've got a makerspace, which is anyone can go in there and make prototypes. We have students who come in, and we've got like one young woman who makes jewelry. She'll laser cut wood jewelry and then sell it on Etsy. So she's running a business out of there. We have the School of Dentistry who came in during COVID and helped us build like a vacuum type device to help pull the air away from the patients while the dentists are doing their work, to help eliminate those little particles that are coming out while you're breathing and things. So there's a lot of things like that. And we do offer prototyping services. We also have options for assisting startups and businesses getting launched. That one's a little bit more, you need to have ties to OU to be able to go through our accelerator or incubator programs. But if you're starting a business, we will handhold you through the process of launching those businesses. If you don't have ties to OU, we'll still meet with you. There might be a small fee for it. And then our director, Tom Wavering, who's the executive director at Ihub, is a national expert on small business innovation and research grants. So we've got our Catalyst programs where if you have any type of high-tech experience, machine learning, AI, military experience, things like that, he's really good at helping you through the grant process to apply for funding from the DoD to help get you funding for your products. And the good thing with it is once those contracts are fulfilled, then you own the intellectual property for those products, and then you can go out and do whatever you want with it. So we've got one gentleman who wanted to create some virtual reality training for children to learn marine biology here in Oklahoma, since we don't have access to the oceans like a lot of other places do. And the Navy was looking for someone to build virtual reality training for their soldiers. So he built that for them, or he's been in the process of building that for them. And then once his contract is up, then he'll be able to take what he built for them and then retrofit it for children here in Oklahoma.
Good, very good. Okay, guys, please go ahead and put any questions you have in chat, and then we'll bring you back on camera here in just a minute. I'd like you to talk about kind of reading the tea leaves of what's going on right now in our environment. I mean, it's a very tumultuous time, obviously. Do you have any insight about where you think we're going as a country, maybe around entrepreneurship and opportunities you see specifically for women?
Yes, I see entrepreneurship and also technology, which like you said earlier, it's going to be a part of everything that we do. Those I feel are going to be the great equalizers for us. Mm-hmm. With all of the corporations trying to monopolize everything, we've got to figure out some other way of doing things. I'm actually, even with all the turmoil that we've got going on right now, I'm really hopeful about the future. And I'm really hopeful about the new generations that are coming up right now. They think differently than we ever have. They're going to be able to help us break out of the groupthink that we've been subject to as a society for so long. And I feel that there's a place for the old and the new to merge and come together, and we can learn from each other. But we're going to have several very hard years ahead of us, but I think the future is going to be pretty bright.
Yeah. Well, and I love that. I mean, in the history of our country, some of the biggest companies we've got now, Google, Amazon, people like that, started during recessions. So
yes,
it drives creativity, right? There may be opportunity that, we can take advantage of. All right.
I was probably one of the few people that was kind of almost excited when COVID hit, because I was like, oh, opportunity. There's going to be so many great things that come out of this. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. You guys, why don't you go ahead and put your cameras and mics back on, and let's just have a discussion. What other kinds of concepts would you like to talk with Diana about? We'll get people back on here. I want you to say the Innovation Hub. I know that this goes on nationally, and I think that SCORE would probably have insight into that, or the Women's Business Association at a national level. Do you have any thoughts about other places nationally that are doing what the Innovation Hub is doing? Are you aware?
Yes, there are. Well, to start with, I'm an Economic Development Association or administration. So the U.S. government, a university center program, and there's a lot of these around the country whose jobs are to innovate, think differently about problem solving, and creating new solutions, especially for our local economies. One of my favorites is in Louisiana. I want to say it's Southern University. There's something else in there that I'm not remembering at the moment, but they have created kind of a blueprint to go into the rural areas and help them revitalize entire communities through entrepreneurism. Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely amazing. And then I know there's a lot of support from places like the Melinda Gates Foundation, Women in Technology, national groups, things like that. So I feel like now is a time that women are really coming together to try to help support each other.
Oh, yeah. And I don't remember the statistics now, but it was something like 1,800 new businesses a day are started by women. I think that women are abandoning corporate America and starting their own businesses as a way of making their way in the world. All right. Carissa's asking, do you have any recommendations on how, where to begin developing yourself in the IT space that has not been your career path? You mentioned that coding's necessary. Is that a starting place?
Yes, absolutely. I started with Codecademy, Codecademy, I believe it was. Coursera, Udemy, there's several places like that. Depending upon where you're at, there might even be local meetup groups or local introduction workshops. Django Girls is an excellent place to start. Those are coding workshops on weekends for women specifically. But yeah, going in and learning that stuff, and you generally going to start with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is basically an outline that you would have written for your English research paper or something like that. It's just an outline. CSS is a style guide. It just says it's going to be these colors. It's going to have this font. It's going to look these certain ways and have these certain properties to it. So just like you would with technical writing or fashion or anything like that. The JavaScript is where it starts getting a little bit more tricky. But actual code itself, I don't know how many of you are crochet or knitters, but code is nothing more than the way that a pattern is written. You tell it, it tells you what to do, and you become the computer, and the pattern is the code. And so you follow what the pattern says. You cast on so many stitches, and then you perform these certain stitches. And then if you want to have A, B, or C outcomes, if you want it to be small, medium, or large, then you skip around to different areas depending upon what the outcome is. And then it comes together at the end and you finish off the same way. And that's exactly how computer code is written.
I've never heard that comparison before. That's very interesting.
Yes.
That's very interesting. Well, guys, and one of the things I've been promoting McLaren, right? We're partnering with McLaren Cares to try to help women get into high-tech careers. And the things we're hearing from employers, and this is in Oklahoma, are they want cybersecurity, data analytics, Java full stack development, and C# and Azure. So those are the things that we're hearing from employers that they really want in this area. So in addition to the web-based stuff, which is what I think you were just talking about, those are some of the areas of interest as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to say JavaScript is going to wind up being the biggest thing that you need to know.
Okay.
So it's going to take over all the others eventually.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
very good. I worked for Sun Microsystems back in the day when Java was developed. So, yeah, okay. Other questions, guys, go ahead and speak them if you want. Are other questions or comments that you want to add to the discussion? I need to learn how to code. I need to not be intimidated by it, right? I mean, it's intimidating to me.
Diana, did you feel that you have been through bouts of depression with your history?
Absolutely.
How did you discern that you felt that way? And then what did you do to get out of it?
I'll be honest, there's been, over the years, I've felt suicidal numerous times.
Oh, dear.
And it was when I first stopped working in banking and we were launching the trucking company. I was at home by myself for weeks at a time. And we had just moved out from Dallas-Fort Worth area where I had friends and everything close by out to rural North Texas. And it was extremely hard. I was by myself. The area was very cliquish. Since I wasn't from there, they didn't want to have anything to do with me. I did manage to make friends with a woman who owned a local Mexican restaurant. She was from Central Mexico. And so it was some of the most amazing food I'd ever had. She went to culinary school in Mexico City, happened to marry a lawyer from Fort Worth, and they had a ranch down the street from where we lived. So I met her through her restaurant, and So finding that one friend, and then also I was reading some magazine article that had said that doing things like knitting and crocheting helps raise serotonin levels. And I already knew that from blood work that my body doesn't produce serotonin. And so I was like, I wonder if this is something that can help me. And that was kind of what saved me, was being able to make things for people that I cared about. And then also getting into gardening, learning how to can and do food, things like that. That's all stuff that I did to sell at the farmers markets during the 2008 recession and the 2008, 2009, to help keep bills paid and then also help give me a sense of purpose. But that's been the main thing, is trying to figure out how to give myself a sense of purpose, and then also trying to keep in mind that my husband loves me very much, despite how mentally disabled and diseased my mother is. She would be devastated if she lost her daughter. So I kept trying to remind myself that I need to keep going, because it's not going to affect just me, it's going to affect other people too. And then I was finally able to get, like I said, some surgeries that I needed. I was able to find doctors that realized that I had hormone
Deficiency or?
deficiency imbalances. Yes. And it was through staying diligent and finding some good doctors, which took a very long time. It took 20 years to find doctors who would listen to me. But just doing my best to stay as positive as I could and keep busy. Keeping busy is the thing that has really helped me the most.
I think the wisdom that I hear most that would be applicable to pass along to other people is that you were thinking about the effect on other people, and that's what pulled you through.
Absolutely.
And I think most people have somebody that they are thinking about, what would happen if I wasn't here, or what would happen if, they didn't have me to count on. And that's kind of what I'm hearing is a piece of advice that sounds really relevant and important to people.
Absolutely. Yes. And my best friend and I have talked about this before, and she's like, she would be completely devastated if anything happened to me. And I know she's been in that same place. She's had those same thoughts, and I'm the person that she thinks of. She knows how devastated I would be if anything happened to her. So having that one person that you think of anytime those thoughts kind of creep up on you.
Deborah, you've worked in that area, haven't you, in that field? Do you have anything to add to that?
So I'm not a mental health professional, but I do know in the midst of struggles, taking care of yourself is enormously important, whatever that means, whatever the non-negotiable is. If it's trying to get that sleep, if it's that social connection, and it sounds like, Diana, you found a lot of ways to cope and navigate.
Yeah.
I think it is hard to find people when you move too, Diana.
It is. That's why volunteering is so big to me. That's how I found everybody coming back to Tulsa. I had a couple of elementary school friends that I've kept in touch with. But volunteering is how I've met everyone that I know now. And then, like Deborah was saying, my therapist has helped a lot, getting a therapist first off. But then we realized that I need 9 to 10 hours of sleep per night with all of my health issues. That's just what my body commands. And I make it a priority to get that. And as long as I get that, and then stay on top of my physical therapy and loosening up my muscles and things like that, and then stay on top of my diet, life seems easy after that. But it's making those things a priority.
Do you have a sleep app that connects to your bed or anything that you can tell how you slept?
I've tried them before, but I keep forgetting about them. I'm extremely forgetful.
That's a really good dialogue there, Dan. Go ahead.
I have a sleep number bed, and the first thing I do in the morning is with my husband is, well, how'd we sleep last night? Even if you kind of felt you slept all right, if it says no, you really didn't, you're in the 60s or 70s, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be tired today.
Yes.
It's almost a
Totally done.
self-fulfilling prophecy.
I
And I
didn't know
try to
there were
plan-
beds that would tell you how you slept. I had no idea. Go ahead.
And I try to plan for those days too. I know that I'm going to have those days. And so on a good day, I try to remind myself, think of your future self, do what you can now so that you can have that bad day when it comes up, because it's going to come up.
Okay, other thoughts or comments, guys, or questions? Deborah, given the health aspect, is there anything else you want to add?
Mostly just Diana, thank you for being willing to be so vulnerable in your sharing. We are probably all connected to people who have struggled or maybe have struggled ourselves. And just the gift that you give in sharing is very helpful for all of us. I think that's the main thing that I want to share. And then I just put a question in the chat box if we have time for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead and ask
So-
it.
So Diana, I'm curious what advice or insights you have for people who have an eclectic set of skills and are looking for a job. I have a daughter who just finished a master's in linguistics. She's got the coding, she's done research. A summer job for her was writing for Ancestry.com. They're a site that they developed on the summary of conflicts the U.S. or America has been involved in back to the Revolutionary War. So a very eclectic mix of talents, but she's sort of looking now for that, okay, what's my big girl job, as she calls it. I'm curious what thoughts you have on if you've got like this eclectic set of skills and you're looking for a job, how do you shape that to be appealing to prospective employees?
That's a really, really good question. And that's something that I've kind of struggled with myself. The fact that I feel like a Jane of all trades and a master of none to some extent has been hard. When I was in banking, I was known as the walking encyclopedia. You could ask me anything and I could regurgitate it, because we had what they called, what was it? Basically, we had a database that had the answer to any single question you could possibly, that a customer might possibly ask. And so it was a learning library, I think is what it was. And I had absorbed all of that in. And so I felt like a master leaving that job. And I've held myself to that standard, anything else I've tried going into, and it's been hard. So trying to not compare myself to others, and especially not compare myself to even myself. And anytime you're going in and starting out new, realize that they're not going to expect you to be a master. And the thing that we're told over and over again, that when you go apply for a job, don't expect to match 100% of what's there. Expect to match about 60%. But I try to keep an open mind. I try to look at jobs that I think would be interesting. And then, yeah, I try to take some time and think about, okay, if they're looking for, I've got the coding skills. So that will allow me to go in and maybe be like a project manager or a project coordinator for some of these tech startups or some smaller businesses, things like that. And I found that for me, especially being eclectic, smaller organizations are better than bigger ones, because the bigger ones want you there for one thing generally and one thing only. But if you're able to go in someplace smaller where they aren't big enough to be able to have one person who just does marketing, or one person who just does coding, or one person who just does project coordination, they really need somebody who can do all of that. And the smaller companies tend to be the ones who are way more flexible, who are way more understanding of situations and way more accommodating. So I would look for what's interesting to her and look for, like I said, the smaller businesses.
Well, the other thing is, as a former HR leader, you could certainly sell her ability to learn and capability and the multiple perspectives. The other thing that I've always recommended to people is, if she did decide what kind of career path she wanted, that end result she wanted, look for half steps along the way that she would utilize the skills she's got and learn the new ones that she needs to get where she's trying to go. So just quickly example. So if I was an accountant and I wanted to be a sales rep, could I go find an accounting software company to sell their software? as a role to move on to the future sales role that I wanted. So I think it actually brings a lot to the table. It's just how you spin it in the interview process, right? From my perspective.
Yeah. And Donna's asked me several times, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? And I can't answer that. I like doing everything. And so I really just kind of, whatever opportunity arises, if it's something that is interesting to me, I'll say yes and do it and just try it. But I don't really have any long-term goal. That's just not how I work.
Fair enough.
I think about and I agree with everything that you're saying, all of you, but I also think about it from a big company perspective, where we have about 2,000 employees in the bigger company. And I think we do a lot of promoting from within. I mean, a ton of it. So it makes me think that part of the key is, if you go to a big company, just be really good at what you're doing so that you stand out to the supervisors, who are always looking for people in a big company to promote, especially in these times when they have people the turnover is tremendous, and it's harder to find people who are going to stick around and be loyal. And I think the big companies are putting more emphasis on those people that they see might be long-term, versus here they go out the door again. And something that one of them shared with me is, when I said, are the Gen Zers better than the millennials? They were supposed to be more dedicated, etc. And he said, not necessarily at all. That if you have a job that you want people to do, and you say, okay, here's your job, and then you want them to do something a little bit over here because you have a big project going on, they're like, no. It's almost like the old school where they used to say, that's not in my job description. Remember that? Well, now it's the same kind of thing. They'll say, no, I wasn't hired to do that. And you say, well, it's really kind of part of your job. Overall job is to do these other kinds of things that are related, and this is where we need you right now. Well, I'm just not going to do that. And then they quit. And so if you can prove yourself, even in a big company, to be this stable, loyal person that is going to persevere and that really do an outstanding job. For us, it would mean, for instance, if you're a housing specialist, that you process more cases, and you always do your caseload, you do more, and then you're helping other people do theirs. That's somebody that we would spotlight as, wow, that's somebody that I would like to promote. So I think big companies can be helpful, and there's a way to work them just like you do, in a sense, in the small ones, where you'd show your breadth of how much you really can do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Good point. Good point. Well, the other thing I found is, sometimes if you're not cookie cutter, you've got some different perspectives, you stand out as a result. Absolutely. And you do things a little differently, and you are the one promoted because you think a little differently than everybody else in the role.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yesterday I read an article on a little bit of the psychology of millennials and Gen Z and why it seems like they job hop so much. So I just shared that link in the chat. To me, it was a fascinating read.
Very good. Very good.
I'm going to get that.
Okay, one last question or comment, guys, and then we need to kind of close up the show. Any other thoughts? Okay, I'm going to ask you to close it up then, Diana. So first of all, what are the top 3 things you want us to have learned from you today?
One, be open-minded about people that you come across. Someone might be struggling, and they may seem like they don't have the right background or the right pedigree or something like that, but you never know what kind of grit and tenacity they're going to have until you give them a chance. I honestly feel like I was judged a lot before Tom Wavering gave me my break back into a regular job. Most people saw that I had 10 years of working for myself and didn't want to give me the time of day. So there's that. 2, always be learning. It helps us with our mental capacity as we get older. And it'll help us with our careers going forward. And 3, forgive yourself, take care of yourself, put yourself first. And if you put yourself first, then you have the capacity to take care of everybody else.
That's a great point. It's kind of like the airline analogy with putting on your mask first, right before you put it on your child.
Absolutely.
That.
Absolutely.
Okay, how about any actions you want us to take? What are the top 3 actions you want us to take coming out of here?
Right now, I am getting very politically active. In all of the research that I've been doing on innovation and the roadblocks that we have to innovation in the state, it all ties back to how poor education is in Oklahoma. And so I encourage everybody to go check out who's voting for office, who supports education, and go vote for those people going forward. So.
Yeah, no, that's critical. All right. Any last thoughts? Okay. All right. I just want to thank you so much, Diana. This has been tremendous. And I appreciate how open you've been, how authentic you've been. I mean, it's really valuable. And I think women do need to realize we're all carrying stuff, and then we let down our guard and we talk about it. It just helps everybody.
Yeah.
The other thing, guys, just for reference, is I've got a commitment to a major project that is going to take up a lot of my time. So Diana's going to be helping me with the program in terms of hosting. So I'll be finding the guests, but Diana's going to be playing a leadership role here with us going forward. I also want to tell you one more time about our program. We're working with McLaren Cares, and Diana's involved with this as well. And we're trying to help underprivileged, underrepresented people, including women, get into high-tech careers. We'll put them through a series of training directly related to the needs of an employer and get them, the idea is to get them into $100,000 a year plus jobs within 3 to 5 years of going through the program. So if you know of any employers that really have a need, I want to talk to them right away, please. Let's see here. If you want to support this program financially, please go to pursepower.com and buy us a cup of coffee. Again, we have all of our prior episodes on the website under Let's Share the Journey. You can look at the website every Monday morning and register for the event on Friday. Please like and share our social media pages. And I'll give you one last comment here, Diana. Anything else? Or anyone else who's on the phone?
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You guys are wonderful. This is a great place to be every Friday. Very uplifting. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much and take care. Please remember, purse power. We have it. Let's use it. Have a great week.
Great. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you, guys. Bye.